Okay, this is a lesson or a breakdown of Please Baby, or sometimes called Baby Let Me Lay It On You by the great Reverend Gary Davis. So, to learn this tune, or any Davis tune, I don't suggest you go right to the tab and look at it, but there's plenty of tab out there for Davis stuff. You want to get his chords down. I prefer you to learn the style. It's so much better. It's easier. He never plays this stuff twice. So if you get hung up on playing it note for note, look, I love all the Ernie Hawkins stuff, the Stephen Grossman stuff, they're friends, and I use it like a roadmap to, get me in the ballpark if I'm not sure something off of an album. But you really want to, learn the style and the chords. So right hand technique is the main thing for Reverend Gary Davis. One finger, one thumb, that's the deal. It's almost like a lot of chordal strumming, and then you pick out certain notes. Counterpoint lines are key in Reverend Gary Davis. I say it to all my students, if you're happy with your sound, that's all that matters. You're never going to sound exactly like Davis. Okay, I mean, you can spend your entire life, you probably could play one song like him, but what's the point? You want to have fun playing this stuff. So I suggest you learn the progression, then you start learning some of the licks, and there's some classic Davis licks and stuff that I'm going to show you in this lesson. If you want to use two fingers, you can. There's plenty of people that do. Jorma Kaukonen, but he'll tell you right off the bat, he plays his songs to be like Jorma. He doesn't try to imitate Reverend Gary Davis. Okay? So I'm just going to play through the song once slow, and then we'll break it down. So, from there. Okay? So that's just one slow, and I'll go over a bunch of this stuff. So the chord progression is G to G7th, and then C to C7th, and then it's G, but uses this Davis G, which I'll break down, to D, to G. Here's the circle of fifths progression, which is E7th, A7th, little A action, D7th, fill lick, and then it's the same thing again. To G7th, C, to C7th, to G, D, G, E7th, A7th, D7th, G, to E7th, A7th to D7th, and then the classic G turnaround, which is G7, C, E flat 7th, to G. So you need to learn that turnaround. If you don't know it already, if anything I'm telling you you know, that's totally cool. So the classic G turnaround. As far as Davis chords, I've got a lesson, or if it's not up yet, it'll be up soon on Davis chords. So he plays like standard G, like that with your little finger. You got to use your little finger so you can do all this walking stuff. Davis would use his thumb. It's a ton of thumb, so he actually plays his first position G with the thumb on the bass note. Second position G would be like your F shape, moved up 2 frets, and you don't worry about the 5th string. He covers it with like one finger covers 2 strings. The key is to have your little finger free so that you can play melody notes. Okay? Now, the next chord, which you kind of need to learn, you could cheat. but for this song, this is the most difficult chord in the tune, is that position G right there. Davis uses it a ton of times, especially in his Holy Blues stuff. So you got to learn this chord. So I would start by just learning these chords and then start bringing in the tune. So that chord shape could take you a long time. Okay, I learned this song off of the guitar and banjo of Reverend Gayer Davis back in like 1974 or something like that. So before tab. But that shape is your D shape, except you're using those three fingers. So your first finger is free. So if you take that D and you move it up to the 5th fret, let's say, that's an F. You go up to where the 7th fret position, 5, 7, 8, 7. 5, 7, 8, 7, that's a G. You go up 2 more frets, it's an A. He uses it in key of A, G a lot. So you're going to have to learn that shape. The best way to learn that shape, in my opinion, is just forget about the first finger. Just get used to playing that D shape right there with those 3 fingers. If you're comfortable with that, then you can bring it up the fingerboard. Now, a lot of people cheat and they'll play the regular D shape at the 7th and 8th frets, and you have the open D string, which is part of the G chord. That's totally cool, but it doesn't really work for this tune, I don't think. I mean, it's up to you. So if you want to play the song and that one chord is really holding you up, then just work on that chord and just use this shape right here. Now what he does a lot of times, 90% whatever, he's going to go from that G shape, whether it's the full G shape or the, what we'll call the cheater G, he goes to a D. Okay? So if you're going from like, say, the cheater D chord, little triangle shape, down to the D, you don't leave any fingers off the fretboard. You just stretch them out. So you're getting this. 5th fret, 7th fret, 5th fret. Okay? So it's a D, 7th chord. And you have the open D as a bass. So you got to make that stretch right there, but it's the least amount of movement is the key to any of the blues stuff, especially Davis. So if your fingers should never actually leave the string, you're just going to change where the fretting is. But you want to learn that full G chord, which is again 4th string 5th fret, 7th fret 3rd string, 8th fret 2nd string, 7th fret 1st string. Just spend the time on that, 5-10 minutes a day. Now, an easy way to learn this chord is to, if you want, those 2 fingers. So your middle and 3rd finger, or 2nd and 3rd finger. If you need to kind of like, because he slides into that chord a lot. So that's kind of like your bass. So it's, and then you can bring the other 2 down. It's very difficult to just lay down that 4-finger chord, just like that. I mean, I have a hard time doing it. Okay, it's in Death Don't Have No Mercy, Samson Delilah. I mean, it's in a ton of songs. Okay, Oh Glory How Happy I Am, that's like the main chord when he's just changing G shapes around. So however you have to do it, you got to learn that chord. Okay, and from there, when he goes to that D, 7th, his little finger, it's shaped different than if you did the cheater D chord, because you're barred off already. So you're going to go from that G chord, okay, and then you're just going to lift up a finger and slide your little finger down, so you have right there. So it's a different fingering for the same chord. You're going to do that a lot. You can't get locked into one fingering. It depends where you're going or where you're coming from. So you and that leaves your little finger free to play that little B. And then down to the G, to E7, A7th, long A, D7th with your thumb. You never play a D7th or a D chord unless you're fretting the bass string 2nd fret. Okay? a melody. Okay, so that's the hardest chord, is that G chord. So if we go to the very beginning, he's going to do this thing where he walks the melody up to the G7. So it's... And then he puts his little finger down on 3rd fret, 4th string. That's a 7th. That gives it a cool, fuller sound. So as far as this first position G, there's a zillion songs that do... You want to be able to walk your little finger and index, first finger, sorry. So like 3, 1, 3, 1, and you have open strings. I don't know if you can see that. The whole time you're keeping this down, your bass notes. You want the solid bass so you can play melody on top of it. So the tune itself, you're going to need to just pick it out, but it's like walking up from the open G. There's your G to the G7th, that's 2 measures. He does the same thing in C. So there's your C chord. Now what he does here is he goes up like that. So sorry, I can't say it now. Landing on this C7 chord. This is another big Davis C7 chord. So just like your A7 is fretted down here, so you're barring off top 4 strings at the 2nd fret and you have the G on the 1st string. A lot of times if I'm just playing that, I use my 3rd finger. It's more powerful than my 2nd finger. So when he's going from the C to walk up to the C7th is... What he does is he does like a reverse of the descending turnaround in the key of C, which is... So he's fretting the 4th and the 2nd strings with his 3rd and 4th finger. So instead of it descending, which is a classic blues thing, he takes it up. He's moving this walking bass line. Counterpoint is the key to Davis. It's either the Davis chords where it's strum, the Davis roll, which I show you and there's a lesson on that, or his counterpoint lines. That's what makes him so cool. The other thing that Davis does that, to my knowledge, most, there might be somebody out there, but he uses the entire fingerboard. He does these inversions of chords, so if it's just like a G chord, no glory, how happy I am, he changes the positions to get the melody notes by coming up the neck to wherever he needs to go. So that's how he gets these notes. So with the C chord, it'd be bum, bum, walking up. So 3rd fret, 4th fret, then open G and E strings. G up to A is your melody, to the B flat, which is the 7th of the C chord, makes it a C7th. And you've got to get the G note with your thumb. Now Davis gets the G and the C, but that's a frickin' bitch. Right there it is, kind of. No, I can't do it. So you don't really need it. If you need it, you cheat and you bring it over and you release something else. But that's your destination point. Bass and strum, then you're going to G again, but it's the higher G. Back down to the G, E7th, A7th, long A to A7th, D7th, it repeats the whole thing. Here we go, walking up to that A7th shape. That might take it some time to learn that chord too. You got to move your elbow wherever it needs to go to make the shape of the chord. High G to that D7th, and then there's a little ornament where he'll do a hammer and pull. So it's to the E7th. He uses the open E string to get to that E7th. Davis uses open strings all the time to change shapes of the chords. A7th, D7th, G. Then you walk up on the 4th string to the E7th. Again, A7th, D7th to the G, and then there's the turnaround I showed you earlier. And you can vary it any way you want to do it with the right hand. That's cool with you. The main thing is to get so you're in a swing tempo. If you can see my right hand. Sure, there's tab out there for this song, so if you're looking to pick it note for note. But what I would do personally, I think this is how I learned it, I'd go to the G, to the G7th, so you're doing an alternating bass, C, go right to this chord, to the other C7, to the G, so it's more like a pinch strum if it's a 2-measure deal. D7th, A7th, D7th, G, E7th, A7th, D7th, G, and then your turnaround. Just pinch. Davis does a lot more pinching. Pinching means your index finger and thumb at the same time. So instead of strumming a chord, which he'll do a lot, like a bass, Davis is about 95% thumb, believe it or not. 90, whatever. It's a majority thumb work. So if he's playing a chord, he pinches and then strums, whatever that last note is, he makes sure that's like a melody note. So I'm going to run through it slow once again for you. So it's G, G7, C, up to the C7th shape. We're just doing the chords. To the G, D7th, G, E7th, A7th, D7th, G. Play it really slow here to wrap this up. Now the open strings in the bass, whether it's an E or an A or what have you, you got to let those guys ring out. And then you're going to bring in just little different licks, so to speak, to vary it. So every time you play it, you want to play it a little different. So for example, show you is the actual Please Baby lick. So we are at the 10th fret of the first string, 12th fret of the second. So it's like, please baby, and you bend the second string up a half step or so. So when you get to in between the two repeated progressions before the turnaround, that's when he'll throw that in. So it's like, if I start here, starts the whole thing again, right? So instead of doing just that D7, D7th, please, baby. I never play that the same either. More walking bass. It's a lot of moving bass in this song. It's not an easy song to play, in my opinion. But once you got it down, it's a fun as hell song. And then you can start doing all the dirty lyrics on top of it. In closing here, I remember I was at Stefan Grossman's house and for a workshop thing, and he said, look, I mean, it could take you, you know, like a year. You're not going to learn this stuff overnight to get comfortable. Davis played these tunes for decades and decades and stuff, so you can't get frustrated. But it's going to take, you know, longer than you probably think. I mean, if you're really good and you know the Davis style, it's not going to be that hard. So that's why I keep preaching. Learn the Davis chords, learn the Davis runs, and his patented Davis roll, which he does in here every now and then. And that's on a lesson you can find on my YouTube channel. And then when you want to play the tune, you're going to see that he just steals licks from other places, like all blues guys do. This is a particularly unique song in a way. But if you're happy with your sound and you want to have fun with it, you're not going to learn this stuff overnight. I mean, it's just the way it is. So you got to, you know, come to grips with that and just have fun with it. So learn the progression, learn those difficult Davis chords, and just start picking out the sections. Like even the first G section, that walking line up, just get that down before you move to anything else. Then work on the C, because the melody mirrors each other. But you got to walk up to that C7th chord, so if you can't play the C7th chord, how the hell are you going to walk up to it? And then the bitch of all Davis chords, in my opinion, the hardest one, is that guy right there. So you could go and just play that cheater D. It works fine, but it's just not Davis. Samson Delilah, Death Don't Have No Mercy, you got to learn that chord. So if you're into Davis and you want to learn a bunch of stuff, start working on that chord, but in between, use that D. That's how Yorma does it and all his stuff. He can't play that other chord. He told me that personally. It's just a bitch, so don't, you know, don't get all discouraged if you can't play the chord right off the bat, is what I'm trying to say. And remember, like I said earlier, if you're happy with your sound, that's all that matters. You're having fun. That's the main thing. And it'll grow. And it'll grow and you'll get better and better and better. Alright? So anybody who watches this, just message me if you have any questions. Glad to do it. And check out my YouTube channel. And if you want to, throw some bucks in my PayPal account. No harm, no foul. And I'll talk to you guys later.